Good evening. It is time for today's tax talk. I am your host. I'm attorney Stephen Leahy. It is the 10th day of November, year of our Lord 2021. We remember last Friday they did pass the infrastructure bill. I'm not sure. Is it passed? Is it passed? Does it still has some hurdles? I don't think it's been signed by the president. There's some debate about all of this. Is it this bill? Is it the other bill? Is it the infrastructure bill? Is it the reconciliation bill? They have the Build Back Better plan. They had the American Families Plan. Not sure where all of this fits in. We don't know because they're not really telling us what's in these bills. These are the old Nancy Pelosi, and I've said this before. You have to pass it to find out what's in it because they don't want to tell us what's in it. But one of the things that we're finding out is in it is the tax breaks for trial attorneys. Remember, they're always telling us how they're going after the wealthy. They want the wealthy to pay more, but every time we find another carve-out, it's the wealthy that are getting the carve-out. I always take the position that this is what happens. But that's what we're going to talk about today. Who's getting the breaks? Well, let's find out. Won't you join us? Well, again, welcome to today's Tax Talk. I'm like that whole thing was about. I'm your host. I'm attorney Stephen Leahy. Again, we're talking about this infrastructure bill and what was in it. We don't know what's in it. I did a little research today to find out is the increase to the IRS budget, is that in this bill? I don't know. Is that in the reconciliation bill? I don't know. So there's lots of things in these that have been talked about, and I can't find out. We talked about the bank statement reporting. Is that in this bill? Well, we hope not. I thought it was taken out, but we don't know for sure that it's been taken out. A lot of things that we've all been discussing for a long time now, whether it's in these bills or not. We have to, and these are not small. They're not short bills. This one is 2,100 pages long. You could fit a lot of graft and pork in 2,100 pages. And one of the things that we discovered now, at least according to the Wall Street Journal, is this tax break for trial attorneys. Right. So here's the story. The Wall Street Journal opinion, they had an editorial the other day, a tax break for trial attorneys. I did get a chance to read this, but I don't have access to show it to you today. But we can talk about, here's another opinion piece about the opinion piece. The House Democrats' 2,100-page bill is chock full of goodies for liberal special interests. And one of the worst tax breaks for their dear friends in the plaintiffs' bar. While raising taxes on businesses, Democrats want to subsidize more frivolous lawsuits. And that's exactly what that will do. So we'll talk. Let's see if they can explain it to us in some of these articles that we're going to look at. So this one, the Wall Street Journal editorial, House budget bill is a tax break for trial lawyers. Earlier this week, the Wall Street Journal published an editorial decrying the House of Representatives' massive 2,100 pages, claiming that it will raise taxes on businesses while subsidizing lawsuits against them. By reducing trial lawyers' legal costs, the bill would effectively subsidize contingency-free cases. Lawyers will be more likely to file dubious lawsuits and drag out cases if they can immediately deduct their expenses. The editorial reads in part, calling for the component of the bill a direct income transfer to plaintiffs' lawyers. According to the editorial, under current practice, the IRS generally bars lawyers working on a contingency basis from deducting expenses such as depositions expert testimony and discovery until a case resolves. In most contingency-based fee arrangements, attorneys front the costs of the lawsuit in return for some, say, usually 30 to 40% of the client's eventual settlement or reward. Under the House budget bill, trial lawyers would be allowed to deduct contingency fee expenses, which would cost $2.5 billion over a decade. It does. When we're talking about the trillions, it doesn't sound like a lot of money, but it's 2.5 trillion, nothing to shake a stick at, according to the Joint Committee on Taxation. As the editorial points out, the IRS has long treated contingency fee expenses like non-deductible loans because a winning case results in those expenses being repaid. In the event of losing a case, the IRS has allowed attorneys to write off those expenses, but under the proposed bill, trial attorneys will be allowed to deduct contingency fee expenses, disregarding the possibility of such amount will be repaid. The bill also says that income attributable to any related recovery shall not be reduced by such amount. American businesses have spent almost 2 years facing a pandemic and worker and supply shortages, and now they face the possibility of government-subsidized lawsuits. Congress must not pass this bill tax break for trial lawyers and instead provide businesses across our nation a chance to recover. Again, is this part of that bill? Or is this part of the reconciliation bill? According to this article by Steve Scalise, who's the Republican whip in the House, it sounds like it's the reconciliation bill, the bill that has not yet been passed that contains this measure. Whip Scalise is committed to exposing President Biden and congressional Democrats' giveaways to radical special interest groups and the far-left provisions buried in their 2135-page big government tax and spending spree. There are many hidden gems that Democrats are handing the socialists, and Whip Scalise will be highlighting them throughout the next few weeks. $2.5 billion tax break for wealthy trial lawyers. And then it lists the sections, would allow plaintiffs' attorneys to deduct out-of-pocket litigation costs in contingency fee cases immediately instead of waiting for the conclusion of the litigation. And then here's the statute, section 138518, expenses in contingency fee cases. This major tax break for wealthy trial lawyers will be subsidized by American taxpayers, lowering the cost of litigation and fueling more frivolous lawsuits. The Joint Committee on Taxation estimates that this trial lawyer handout would cost approximately $2.5 billion over the next 10 years. They love when they get some organization to come up with a number. They just keep pounding on that same number. And here's his tweet, because of course that's what we report on now, tweets. $2.45 billion tax break for rich trial lawyers that'll fuel more frivolous lawsuits, Joint Taxation Committee estimates. Dems care more about sneaking in pork for their political allies than solving the crisis impacting workers and families. And then the contingency fee basis, and here it is here in the statute. The deduction under Section A shall be determined by disregarding the possibility that such amount will be repaid. So I don't have to wait to get repaid. I can deduct it now as a current expense. Income attributable to any related recovery shall not be reduced by such amount. I don't know. I guess then that means I can't. Then I have to take it as income later instead of taking it as an expense. So later when my client pays me back, I'll have to pay income tax on it. I don't know if that's a good thing. That seems like you'd be paying more as an attorney because if it's deductible, it comes off and I don't pay tax on it. But if I take it as income, then I'm going to have to pay tax on it. But I get the benefit of having that deduction now. So I'm not sure how that would work. Bottom line, Democrats' radical reconciliation package, and again, he mentions the reconciliation package and not the infrastructure bill, will help subsidize costs for trial lawyers, lowering the cost of speculative lawsuits. President Biden, Speaker Pelosi, and their liberal lieutenants are more concerned with sneaking in pork for their wealthy friends instead of addressing the needs of struggling American families, workers, and small business. Again, I'm not sure, if it's I say here it's the infrastructure bill, and that was my initial That was my initial impression. Reading this, though, maybe we're talking about the reconciliation bill. But I left it as the infrastructure bill because the problem is we don't all know. They don't tell us, right? We can't. Nobody's really had any hearings on these bills, or have the Congressional Budget Office scored them. So we don't know what they're going to cost. We don't know what's in the bill really. Again, there's no. Usually, when a bill comes up, first we have committee hearings, and both sides get to talk about it, expose the different provisions, bat it around, see what's in it, bring it to everybody's attention, see if the public's opinion on it. But if the public never knows that it's in there, how are they going to react? Again, I think that bank statement that bank statement reporting was a very good example, right? Because earlier this year, they passed the American Rescue Plan. And in the American Rescue Plan had that the Cash App provision that I've talked about on this show, that if you do more than $600 a year in a Cash App, then now it'll be reported on a 1099 form. And, and that's replacing the rule that says $20,000 and 200 transactions or more. So they've lowered the bar tremendously. But nobody really knew about it until after it was passed. I think had people known about this, maybe there would have been an uproar on that as much as there was on the banking report, the bank report provisions, and it would have been sidelined or taken out of the bill. But nobody knew about it, so the public didn't have an outcry. And I think there would have been an outcry had people known. But nobody knows. They don't. If you don't have these hearings for people to know what's in it, we have to pass that. I think that's, and I keep saying that because that's exactly where it comes from. We need to pass the bill in order to find out what's in it, because that's what we did with Obamacare, and that's been the practice ever since Obamacare. Right? The practice has always been is now make the bill so big nobody knows what's in it, and that way we can put everything we like in it. And nobody will even object because they don't know what's there. The only people that know that there is leadership, because I don't think the members are really reading the bills, so they don't know what's in it, except for the provisions that they're using to persuade them to vote for the bill. Look, for instance, what provisions are in that infrastructure bill that got 13 Republicans to sign on? I don't know, but I would say, and many of those 13 Republicans, they're from New Jersey and New York. So, what kind of infrastructure spending are going to be in their congressional districts in return for those votes? Because Nancy Pelosi really needed their votes because the squad sat out. And without those 7 votes, it was impossible to pass that. So what happened? What kind of trading was done in order to get the 13 Republicans from New Jersey and New York? Again, they're not all from New Jersey and New York. There was a member from Arizona, one right here in Illinois, Adam Kinzinger. What did he get for his vote? I know he's not running again, but he's on that commission also, so he's getting a lot of goodies, and from the speaker and some other things. So we don't know what's in it. Again, there's horse trading, and that's what happens. But we never get a bill that the Republicans want to pass that we get 5 or 6 Democrats to cross the line. I think because there'll be repercussions. Too often, the Republicans don't come down. So there's some now talk about getting those 13, taking them off of any committees that they're on. Well, if you're not going to play, and you don't want to be on the team, well, then you have to get off the field. That's, this makes sense. They took MTG, they take her out of all the committees because they didn't like what she was doing. I have to believe that she should be in the committees, although she thinks that she's done more good since getting out of the committee than she did while she was in committees, and that's probably true. But if you're not going to be on the team, if you're not going to be a team player, well, then you got to get off the field, and go on the field with your team. There's some that that believe that these are independent-minded people who are just doing, voting their conscience. I don't believe that. I don't believe they're voting their conscience. I think there's some sort of payoff in it. What's the payoff? I don't know. But that we don't know what's in the bill, so we don't know. So now again, this is about the IRS. And we, as I mentioned, I'm all for deductions. I think that's a good thing. I try to get as many deductions for my clients as I can. And if you're fighting the IRS, how do you start fighting the IRS? You get a copy of my book, Deal with Your IRS Problem Today. That's how you begin fighting the IRS. You can get a free copy at freeirsbook.com. Again, it's freeirsbook.com. If you want a hard copy, I'm going to ask you to pay for the shipping and handling, small shipping and handling fee. If you don't want a hard copy and you want an electronic copy, it won't cost you anything. I'll get you in our membership site that has a electronic version, PDF, Word version, audio version, and a commentary on each and every chapter. So go to freeirsbook.com and get your free copy of Deal with Your IRS Problem Today. And so I've been doing a lot of watch the Kyle Rittenhouse trial, and I've seen some attorneys on talking about it. I thought that was very interesting. I'd like to get some. We have a show I've talked with some attorneys about. It's called Beyond the Gavel or After the Gavel, and to talk about different cases. Today, that those lawyers that I talked about, I've been watching their case. They had 78,000 people watching at one time. That's huge, and I think we have lawyers right here in Illinois, right here in the Chicago area, that have insight into these types of cases, and I think that's what we want to do. But we need you to like and share our content in order to get that done. So please like and share our content. Come back again tomorrow. Love to have you here. Remember, this is today's Tax Talk. And again, we'd love to see you back here tomorrow. Like and share, like and share, like and share. Subscribe? Okay, whatever. Thank you. Oh, yeah.